All right, so the first major replacement program was called the Objective Individual Combat Weapon. The OICW, it's the gun that tried to do everything. Instead of just building a better rifle, they said, what if we build a weapon that makes cover irrelevant? So picture this. A rifle with a 20mm grenade launcher mounted on top. The grenade launcher has a computer. The computer calculates range. You aim at an enemy hiding behind a wall. The computer tells the grenade to explode exactly 3 feet past the wall. And boom, the enemy is neutralized even though you never had line of sight. But here's the problem. To make this work, they created a weapon that weighed 18 pounds. 18 pounds? A loaded M4 weighs about 7.5 pounds. So they're asking soldiers to carry more than double the weight. And remember, soldiers don't just carry a rifle. They carry ammunition, body armor, water, radios, medical supplies. Every additional pound matters. Now the second problem, well, the 20mm grenade wasn't lethal enough. In testing, they found that the airburst munition could wound enemies, but often didn't kill them. So you've got this heavy, expensive, complicated weapon that doesn't actually solve the lethality problem, right? That's problematic. The third problem was the rifle component itself. To keep weight down, they had to use a 10-inch barrel. But with a 10-inch barrel firing 5.56, your muzzle velocity drops so much that you might as well be throwing rocks. I mean, the rifle portion was useless beyond 200 meters, completely useless. Therefore, in 2004, the Army canceled the program. They'd spent hundreds of millions of dollars. They had 0 rifles to show for it. 0. Program number 2, the XM8. So after the OICW failed, the military looked at the rifle component and thought, wait, this is actually pretty good. What if we just develop this as a standalone rifle? It was designed by Heckler & Koch, the same German company that makes some of the world's best firearms. It used a short-stroke gas piston instead of direct gas impingement, which meant far fewer jams. It was modular. You could quickly change barrels to create a compact carbine, a standard rifle, a designated marksman rifle, or even a light machine gun. It had an integrated optic with a red dot and IR laser. It was the future, all right? Now, in testing, the XM8 performed incredibly well. In a 60,000 round dust test, the XM8 had only 127 stoppages. The M4, 882 stoppages. That's 7 times more failures. The XM8 was objectively more reliable. Okay? So why did it fail? You're probably asking yourself that right now. Politics. Pure politics. Because the Army didn't run an open competition. They just gave the contract to Heckler & Koch based on the previous OICW work. Other manufacturers were furious. Colt, FN, Remington, all these companies said, wait, we could build something better if you gave us a chance, right? They lobbied Congress hard. So Congress denied funding in 2004. The Army tried to salvage the program by opening a competition in 2005. But then they canceled that competition after only 5 months. And why? Well, because the Army was realizing something important. They were losing 2 wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. They didn't have time for years-long rifle development programs. They needed solutions now, right now. Therefore, the XM8 died, not because it was bad, but because the politics and timing were wrong. To this day, the only military that uses the XM8 is Malaysia's Special Forces. That's it. One of the best rifles ever designed, killed by bureaucracy. I mean, you can't make this up. Let me ask you something, though. What does this tell us about military procurement? It tells us that technical superiority doesn't matter if you don't manage the stakeholders, right? Lesson learned. Program number 3, the FN SCAR. While the Army was fumbling the XM8, U.S. Special Operations Command was running their own program. They wanted a modular M4 replacement just for Special Forces, and in 2004, they selected the FN SCAR, okay? So the SCAR was different. It came in 2 versions, the SCAR Light in 5.56 and the SCAR Heavy in 7.62. Both used a short-stroke gas piston for reliability. Both had quick change barrels. Both had folding stocks, full-length Picatinny rails, and ambidextrous controls. This was modularity done right. All right? In testing, the Scarlight performed even better than the XM8. In that same 60,000 round dust test, the Scarlight had only 226 stoppages compared to the M4's 882. It was reliable. It was accurate. Special Forces loved it. I mean, they loved this rifle. But here's where it gets interesting. In 2010, SOCOM canceled the Scarlight. Wait, what? Right? They canceled the better rifle? This makes no sense. The official reason was budget constraints. The real reason, though? Well, the Scar Heavy in 7.62 was so good that they didn't need the 5.56 version. Think about it. If you're Special Forces, you can choose your loadout. You're not a regular infantry soldier who has to use whatever they give you. So they said, we'll use the Scar Heavy when we need range and power. We'll use the M4 when we need something light and compact. Right? Simple. Now this is a critical moment in our story, because what SOCOM figured out was that you don't need one rifle to do everything. You need the right rifle for the right mission. The Scar Heavy gave them a modern battle rifle. But notice what happened here. Special Forces found a solution by admitting the M4 has limitations and supplementing it with something better. The Army, though? Well, the Army wanted one rifle to do everything, and that's where the next program comes in. Program number 4, the individual carbine competition. Alright, so by 2011, the Army decided to try again. This time they'd do it right. Let's do an open competition. May the best rifle win, right? Sounds good to all the gun companies. And they called it the individual carbine competition. And the lineup was impressive. Colt's enhanced M4 with a gas piston, an improved barrel, FN Scar 16S, and an improved variant called the FNAC. Heckler & Koch's HK 416A5, the rifle that would become the Marine Corps M27. Remington's ACR Adaptive Combat Rifle with multi-caliber capability. Beretta's ARX 160 with quick change barrels, and several others. Now each of these rifles represented the cutting edge of small arms design. The Remington ACR, for example, could switch between 5.56, 6.8mm SPC, 6.5mm Grendel, or 7.62 by 39mm just by swapping barrels, bolts, and magazines. You could have one rifle platform that used any caliber depending on the mission. That's incredible. I mean, that's the dream, right? The HK 416 had already proven itself with SEAL Team 6. It's the rifle that killed Osama bin Laden. Its gas piston system was so reliable that it could fire tens of thousands of rounds with minimal maintenance. And this thing is bulletproof. So after all this testing, after collecting data on accuracy, reliability, durability, and soldier feedback, which rifle won? None of them. None of them. In 2013, the Army canceled the entire competition. Their reason? Well, none of the rifles provided a sufficient improvement over the M4A1 to justify the cost. Let that sink in for a second. They tested rifles that had half the failure rate of the M4. Rifles that were more accurate, rifles that soldiers preferred, and the Army said, not good enough. So what really happened here? Well, the Army had spent the previous decade upgrading the M4 fleet. Better barrels, better magazines, better rails, and they'd fixed enough of the M4's problems that the gap between it and the competitors had shrunk. Not because the M4 got that much better, but because the Army kept raising the bar for what counted as sufficient improvement. Does that make sense? So this is a pattern you need to understand, okay? Every replacement program fails, then the Army makes some incremental M4 improvements. Then they start a new replacement program with an even higher bar. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, right? You're never going to win. Therefore, by 2013, the industry was exhausted. They'd spent millions developing these rifles, and the Army just said, never mind. Just like that, nothing changed, and these guns are now marketed for the civilian market in the US. But something else was happening during this time that would change everything. Program number 5, the HKM-27IAR. Now, while the Army was canceling programs, the Marine Corps was quietly doing something radical. In 2010, they adopted the M27 Infantry Automatic Rifle to replace the M249 SAW in infantry squads. So the M27 is basically an HK 416 with a heavier barrel. It fires 5.56. It weighs about 8 pounds. And the Marines were using it to replace a belt-fed light machine gun that fired the same round. Okay? And on paper, this makes no sense. You're replacing a 200-round belt-fed machine gun with a 30-round magazine-fed rifle. How is that better? So here's how. The M27 is so much more accurate than the M249 that Marines can achieve suppression with fewer rounds. The M249 might throw 50 rounds downrange and hit nothing. The M27 throws 10 rounds and hits the target area every time. Plus, the M27 is lighter, more maneuverable in buildings, and far more reliable. But the Marines were so impressed with the M27 that in 2017 they decided to issue it to every infantryman, not just automatic riflemen, everyone. They were replacing the M4 throughout their infantry battalions. Complete replacement. And why they did that? They did that because the M27's gas piston system means it jams far less than the M4. Its free-floated barrel gives it 2 minutes of angle accuracy compared to the M4's. It stays cleaner under sustained fire. It's simply a better rifle, okay? It's just better. Therefore, the Marine Corps became the first U.S. service to broadly adopt an M4 replacement in 5.56. And you know what? It worked. Marines in training and combat reported higher hit rates, fewer stoppages, and greater confidence in their weapon, right? Problem solved. But here's the catch. The M27 costs about $3,000 per rifle compared to the M4's $1,000. For the small Marine Corps, that's manageable. For the Army with 10 times as many soldiers, that's $6 billion just for the rifles, not counting magazines, spare parts, training, and logistics. I mean, that's a lot of money. The Army looked at this and said, if we're going to spend that much money, we need more than a better 5.56 rifle. We need a capability leap, okay? And that brings us to the final program, the one that actually succeeded. Program number 6, the NGSW, the Next Gen Squad Weapon. All right, so in 2017, the Army started the Next Generation Squad Weapon program with a completely different philosophy. They weren't looking for a better M4, they were looking to fundamentally overmatch any adversary for the next 50 years, right? Big thinking. Now the requirements were insane, and they move up the bar every time. Here are some of the requirements. Defeat body armor at 600 plus meters, that's double the M4's effective range. Reduce weapon weight compared to current systems. Integrate an advanced fire control optic with range finding and ballistic computing. Should be able to use a new 6.8 millimeter caliber with significantly more energy than 5.56 or 7.62 NATO. So this is where the dance between context and conflict really heats up, because these requirements seem contradictory, right? How do you increase power while reducing weight? How do you create a new caliber with better ballistics but have it ready for mass production in just a few years? I mean, this is impossible on paper. 3 companies competed, Sig Sauer, General Dynamics, and Textron. Each took a completely different approach. Textron developed a telescoped case ammunition system where the bullet sits inside the powder charge rather than on top of it. This dramatically reduces cartridge length and weight. General Dynamics teamed up with True Velocity to create composite polymer ammunition cases instead of brass. Polymer cases are lighter and dissipate heat better. Their rifle was a conventional layout with a modular design. Sig Sauer took the boldest approach. They created a hybrid case with a steel base and brass body. This allowed them to load the cartridge to 80,000 psi chamber pressure. The result? A 6.8 millimeter round that hits harder than 7.62 millimeter NATO, but in a shorter, lighter package. Their rifle, the MCX Spear, was a scaled-up AR-15 pattern rifle with a short-stroke piston. Okay? After extensive testing, the Army selected SIG in April 2022. The rifle was designated XM7, now XM5 in some documents, and the machine gun variant was designated XM250. Now let me tell you why this won. It wasn't just the rifle, it was the system, right? The whole system. The XM7 weighs 8.4 pounds empty. Yes, that's heavier than an M4. But it fires a round so powerful that it defeats level 4 body armor at 600 meters. The M4 can't even penetrate level 3 armor reliably at that range. The XM7 comes with an integrated suppressor to reduce signature, and it's paired with the XM157 fire control optic, basically a smart scope with a laser rangefinder, ballistic computer, environmental sensors, and a digital display. This system calculates the exact aim point for any range, wind condition, or target movement. It turns every rifleman into a sharpshooter. I mean, think about that. Every rifleman becomes a marksman. Now, the XM250 machine gun weighs just 13 pounds with suppressor. That's 4 pounds lighter than the M249 it replaces, despite firing a much more powerful round. It uses a belt-fed system, but doesn't have a quick change barrel because the barrel is designed to handle sustained fire without overheating. Here's the trade-off though. The 6.8mm ammunition is heavier than 5.56. A basic load of 720 round magazines weighs 9.8 pounds, compared to 7.4 pounds for 730 round magazines. So soldiers will carry fewer rounds, but each round is far more lethal. Does that make sense? The Army's betting that precision and power matter more than volume of fire. They're betting that with the XM157 optic, soldiers will hit on the first shot instead of spraying and praying. This is the contrarian bet. For decades, the military philosophy was spray more bullets downrange. Now they're saying hit with the first bullet, right? Complete reversal. Will it work? Well, we're about to find out. Initial fielding began in late 2023 to infantry units. By 2030, the Army plans to equip all close combat forces with the NGSW system. So let's zoom out for a second. Over 20 years, 8 major programs, billions of dollars spent. Only one succeeded. Why? And that's the question. Because every failed program tried to make incremental improvements to an existing paradigm. The XM8 was a better M4. The SCAR was a better M4. The individual carbine competitors were better M4s. They all operated within the same assumptions, 5.56, similar weight, similar cost. But the NGSW is a completely different system, different ammo, and different fighting doctrine. If you like this type of content, be sure to like and subscribe and leave your comment below on guns you would like to see in the future.